is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lord. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
Now, your hosts, Mickey Spagnola, Rob Phillips, Everson Walls, and Bill Jones.
And here we are on the morning after. The Cowboys beat the Redskins on Sunday, and yet the Giants fall to the Eagles. And so now the new year comes a couple of days early for your Dallas Cowboys as we look ahead to 2020 and look back at what happened in an 8-8 season. This is Talking Cowboys, and we've got much to get to here in the SWBC Mortgage Studios. We've got the full squad here.
We need to start on time, guys. This CP time is killing me. What's going on, man? I thought I was joining a professional
Getting
group
cheated
here.
out of 5 minutes.
You go 8-8 when you don't
That's
show up
right.
on time.
That's
you know?
right.
So slow starts. It was the story
Cowboys won,
story
and
of the
we're sad.
season. We have a slow start here on Talking Cowboys also. And so here we are, and let's, I guess, go around the table and just a quick take on where we are right now. Mickey?
Kind of where you think you would be when you have to rely on somebody else to do your dirty work. Mm-hmm. You had your opportunity against the Philadelphia Eagles the week before. You didn't cash in, and as I say over and over again, the NFL helps those who help themselves, and the Cowboys didn't help themselves enough. The Giants teased them for.
They sure did. Teased me
almost
17 all. When Saquon goes 69 yards.
That was it, man.
2:05 left in the third, and it's a tie game, 17-17. You're sitting there going, well, okay, maybe.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Everyone, we're like Jerry Jones at the game. Everyone's had the split screen. You had one TV on the field.
We had one TV in the press box on that game, and then Elliott hit the 50-yarder and then the fumble.
Well, it was about the same time the Cowboys make a field goal, the Eagles make a field goal.
It was amazing.
It was very weird.
I was documenting it. Every time one
very
scored,
weird.
the other one scored.
We were like alternate realities or something. Yes, that was very good.
But it did not turn out the way
No, Super Bowl Bill just not going to
happen.
You're going to be there, though, right?
I went to the Winter Classic.
You didn't wear the hat. If you would have worn the hat Friday, then I think we would have been in better shape. So.
Oh, that's right.
You blew it with
I wore. We don't get into the hat.
Let's not get into that. I'm sorry, Bill.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that either.
That went exactly how I thought it would go, by the way.
Although if there is any saving grace, at least they did what they needed to do and beat the Redskins 47-16. And I don't know if I've ever seen a victory over the Redskins so hollow in my life.
That's
right?
True, very true.
Because usually if you just beat the Redskins, even if they're bad, it's a great deal, right? And you beat them 47-16. And as Dak Prescott said after the game, he said, I don't think I've ever been as disappointed after a win.
Yeah, that was a quiet locker room. Not many guys talked. And, I mean, they had their chances. They had their chance a week ago, and they didn't capitalize in Philly. And when you look back at this season, I think we're going to look back at a lot of things, but the close games in particular. And they were 1-6 in games decided by one score. And last year, I think they were something like 9-3. And, didn't make the plays in the fourth quarter. We mentioned the slow starts. Those were a thing all year long. And, when you go back and review this season, I think you're going to look at some things that didn't go right that cost them in the playoffs last year. Same things. The games they lost, they didn't convert in the red zone, they didn't stop the run at times, and they didn't take the ball away. And those are – Jason Garrett mentioned it on the fan this morning. They didn't make enough winning-type plays consistently this season, and that's why they're 8-8, and that's why they're home for the playoffs.
Sad. Yeah, when you start thinking about it, you've got, the turnovers in the game. We made the third downs. It was going back to what we were accustomed to. And as you looked at the game, and as it was over, I'm sure if I was in that locker room and I was one of those players, I would have been contemplating so many things at that point. All the things that you pointed out, our frailties and everything that we messed up, our inability to, keep things in our own hands, to keep our fate in our own hands. I think that really is the most disappointing part of it. we can talk about the different individual stats and failures, but when it all comes down to it, they were not a good team. We always talk about the superstars. We always talk about the salaries that we gave out. And I've said it over and over again. You don't need a team full of superstars to beat a team full of superstars. You just need a good team. And who amplifies that right now, to me? The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, especially with all the injuries
they deserved everything that they got. They deserved everything that they have right now. And we deserve everything that we have right now because those guys did what we did last year with nothing, with less. At least last year, Dak and the guys had Zeke and you had Cooper, you had the offensive line. They were, man, I think the guy said yesterday, some of the guys had just met in the huddle. I mean, think about it.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Hey, no, I just signed right before the game. And here you got a former practice player, got 3 touchdowns yesterday.
Scott?
Did I read that
Boston
well?
Scott.
Boston Scott, the running back.
And just think about that. He was a practice player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No
He's
excuses.
Mickey's height.
No excuses.
Yep.
And
almost
he came
as fast,
in
too.
He got a lot of elbows in the face. Is that what?
Yeah, like Mickey did play in high school basketball, right? Or no, pickup basketball.
Yeah. I didn't grow any from high school.
Yeah. All right, let's do this, and we'll. Douglas Barricklow is doing the producing chores today.
Yeah.
And he's got some cuts from Jason Garrett's appearance this morning on 105.3 The Fan. Let's start with this. Despite missing the playoffs, Garrett pleased with the way his team played yesterday.
I was so inspired by how our team played yesterday. And ultimately, as a coach, that's the stuff that becomes most important to you. And, the look our guys had in their eyes and how they played and the love they had for the game and for each other and just how hard they played and how determined they played and how tough they played and how willful they played. Those are the things as a coach that you just you value more than anything else. So, ultimately we didn't get it done. Ultimately, we weren't a playoff team this year. That's disappointing for everybody. No one more than us, the guys who are directly involved in it. But yesterday was a good day. We controlled what we could control, and the guys played inspirational football. And as a coach, that's what we value most.
The big takeaway I had from the whole post-game scene yesterday was, these guys, as disappointing as it is, any team, especially at this level, you invest so much during the year. And Dak Prescott talks about the brotherhood that develops every year. And it's emotional regardless when you've invested like this team invested, even though the results aren't what everyone wanted it to be. It's an emotional time at the end of the season when it's the end of the road.
Well, when you spend your whole time with these guys, you're with your teammates more than you're with your family. They might see you guys more than I might see you guys more than I might see my wife, if I'm playing during the season. And, when you start getting real close to these guys and your efforts come together and then, you're together when you lose, you're together when you win, you go through these ups and downs like a family. There are going to be some arguments, some disappointments. But then in the end is when you finally realize we did all of this together, good or bad. We are all in this together. And I guess it does get pretty emotional, especially when you're disappointing. In a disappointing season, it's emotional enough when the season's over after a Super Bowl win. It's really emotional when you don't even get there. And you get to watch all of these guys and the accolades and things of that nature, knowing that you have really, and if you're that player and you're in this particular situation, you would look at yourself and say, I let my teammates down. No matter how well you played, if I would have done better, then we would have done better. That's a team concept.
It's like Zeke said after the game, it becomes like a family. And Jeff Heath told me, and he's sitting there talking to us with 2 bad shoulders and probably at least one probably needs to get fixed in the offseason. Guys playing through stuff. He said, we've been together basically every day since April, when the offseason program starts. And so you summed it up great. Former player, you know exactly what it's like, win or lose at the end of the season. And the reality sets in that this group will never be together again. I mean,
especially
I
this
think
group.
that's really the ultimate sadness about it. You know that something's going to change, and this will never happen again. This will never happen again.
Not this exact group.
Not this exact group.
You go down the list here. It's like 20. I think it is 26 potential unrestricted free agents.
A lot of contracts. A lot of contracts need to be upgraded. Yeah.
A lot of potential change on this team coming.
And I think the hardest thing is you're going from start of training camp to the last game of the season. You're going 100 miles an hour, right? And then all of a sudden, when you get in situations like this, say you're 6-9 or whatever, you're not going to the playoffs. The season's over. You go 3-12, you get to the last game, the season's over. But this was almost like a playoff game where 100 miles an hour, then everything comes to a screeching halt. And I think that's so hard. If I was a player, heck, it's hard for us, right?
Yeah.
We go 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden, it's over. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be the hardest thing to accept.
The most sobering thing is here in a few minutes when the locker room's supposed to open to the media and those trash bags comes out and guys are cleaning out their lockers after their final team meeting.
It's like you get the box. When you're in the office, you get the box. Yeah, the guys got the trash bag.
Yeah. And guys start answering questions about their contract status coming up, whether they need surgery in the off season. I mean, it's just a totally different vibe, and it's the reality sets in. This is it.
All right, here's more from Jason Garrett from this morning on 105.3 The Fan, answering a big picture question. What did he think went wrong this season?
I think the overarching explanation is we weren't consistent enough. We weren't consistent enough throughout the year from game to game. We weren't consistent enough within games. We didn't do the things that winning football teams do. And, we have a basic formula for winning that we talk a lot about. You have to win the ball. You have to win the big plays. You have to win the fourth quarter. And oftentimes when you pull back after a ball game and evaluate those three statistics, those will be the deciding factors in games. If you lose the turnover ratio, you're going to lose a lot of games in the NFL. If one team is making many more big plays than the other team in the game, typically that correlates to points. You make big plays, typically you score points. If you don't, it's hard to score points. And then, obviously, so many of these games are decided in the fourth quarter. They're one-score games. 2/3 of the games in the NFL are decided by one score. And how you play in those games, how you play in the fourth quarter is huge. If you make the plays on offense or if you make the stops on defense, or do what you need to do in the kicking game. And, in the games that we lost, many of them were close games, one-score games. That's the best thing we did with our team last year. We won 7 out of 8 down the stretch, 8 out of 10 down the stretch last year, and they were close games. They were back and forth. We're ahead, they're ahead, scores tied. And we do what we need to do at the end of the game. This year in the games that we lost, we weren't able to get that done, and ultimately that's the difference.
And that was the difference, right? 1-6 in one-score games, and I think
in some of those one-score games, they became one-score games because they had fallen behind by so much, and they had to score so much just to make it a one-score game.
That's true. They weren't all
nail
biters.
But they did have some opportunities in some of them, and they couldn't cash in late. And there was never, ever a better example of what he was saying than the Seattle Seahawks.
I was going to say.
They went into the game last night, and of their 11 wins, 10 were one-score games. And what happens last night? It's a one-score game, and they're basically at the 1-yard line, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they get penalized, and they can't get in the end zone, and they lose 26-21 when the tight end landed 6 inches from the goal line.
Sometimes they say that it catches up with you.
Yeah, and you know what? And that was kind of what I wrote about from last year to this year.
Yeah.
It caught up with them. They won 8 games last year by 1 score. It's like, okay, now this year you lose 6 of them, right?
You're tempting fate.
If you're not knocking people out, right, dominating them, at some point that stuff's going to even out. You can't keep winning like that.
Well, the pattern that they had was not a good pattern. Having to win those close games, putting yourself in position to having to make that play. All of a sudden, you can't make that play.
Or that field goal.
And so here you can say, okay, well, it's coaching. We should have done this. We should have done that. No one questioned any of their approach, last year. There was no questioning how they wanted. Oh, this could have gone this way in that game, or 4 of those games. We didn't quantify how 4 of those games could have gone another way.
Right.
Now here we are talking about it.
By the way, on that Seattle game, how ironic was it that the Saints missed out on a chance at a first-round bye because the replay booth decided not to review an obvious pass interference
call. Yes.
How could they not? By the way, got my NFL officiating.
There it is,
shirt
Mick
on.
Hockley.
How can they not even look at that? I mean, okay, say you say and you know what they were going to say, the call in the field stands. But look at it. Mm-hmm. And somebody said,
I mean, because they passed the rule, right? So you might as well.
I don't know if it was on the broadcast
They tried
right.
to justify it. He tried to justify it by saying, you don't want to come in and change a game with that call, or that no call. That's
why the rule was put in,
and that's what they said. That's why the rule was put in.
And then let me throw this out there. Can you imagine the criticism Jason Garrett would have gotten if his team got down on the 1-yard line and then got a delay of game penalty?
How did they get
it? Looked like us. That looked like us. That was deja vu all over again.
I wasn't watching it. So
watching that game.
How did they get a delay?
But they
blew it.
They took too long to get.
You asked Jason Garrett the same thing. How did something happen? They just blew it. They wouldn't even explain it. They tried to talk about it after the game. He just brushed over it. Pete Carroll said, oh, it was just what it was. And then they tried to explain the way, saying, oh, well, now they have more room to pass the ball.
Right. We wanted to be at the 6
on the 1-yard
anyway.
line. No, we're better off on the 6. Yeah, we're good.
That way we'll throw a 5-yard pass and get stopped
silly.
6 inches short.
Even the commentators were silly on that one. They gave it a pass. They gave them a pass. If that was Jason Garrett, that would be the talk of the entire game.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Jason Garrett blew the whole season right there. That's what they would have said.
I can't remember which game it was. It was somewhere in the 90s in the Super Bowl seasons where the Cowboys were kind of in that same situation about the 6-yard line, and Troy threw a pass underneath.
It was against
Cleveland,
Cleveland,
right?
I remember.
And he ended up at the half-yard line, and so everybody like, how could you throw the ball underneath? You got to throw it in the end zone.
They had no timeouts left, and so the clock is the actual game clock is running, and they couldn't get another play off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all right, one more before we take a break. One more from Jason Garrett asked what his future holds.
I don't know. We're going to go in this morning, and the guys have exit physicals, so we're going to talk to our players. We're going to have a team meeting at 12 noon, and I'm scheduled to visit with the Joneses after that, and we'll have a good visit, and we'll see what's next.
I thought the locker room was open at noon.
Well, their team meeting's going to be
I just heard it's going to be a little later.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the team meeting takes place right after Talkin Cowboys.
Takes a little more precedence than us getting in the locker room.
When I woke up this morning, I was looking for an ESPN alert or something.
Already?
Yeah, already. We had 2 of them. Kitchens,
and Kitchens last night. Cleveland made that move quickly after they lost to Cincinnati.
Couldn't wait.
And then this morning, Pat Shurmur let go, but Dave Gettleman is staying on as the GM of the New York Giants.
So that's Jason Garrett's future home.
That's a lot of speculation.
Is it lining up like that? I mean,
it sounds like it.
Well, and it's unique because he's out of contract. So if they decide to go in a different direction, it's not a firing.
Right.
It would be
just an announcement.
Moving, and I don't even know if they do change direction. I don't even know if they would make an announcement or when they would make an announcement, because if you look at it, Mick, like a player who's a free agent, they don't announce that a player leaves. I don't know how. We'll see how this unfolds.
I think if there was an announcement, and I'm just speculating, I have no idea, but it would be a mutual parting of the ways.
Of course.
If that's the way they go.
Linehan was, I think it was
described
that way as a mutual parting of the ways. Anyway, we continue
sort
with
of
more
like Jimmy and Jerry, right?
Cowboys
It was mutual.
in just a moment.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Ready? Okay. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that
play like you cheered.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS One score September 2019.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Time to grab the best of 2019. Choose a free travel size of one of this year's best with your $60 plus purchase on getjackblack.com. Probably need to know that this was Jack Black, and you can go and shop now if you use the code BEST. So go ahead and get some of your faves. Grab them best ones of 2019.
You've got to.
What's the best one you got?
He should do a pre-read every time.
You know,
a little practice run?
I'm a big fan of. He doesn't need a practice.
Yes, he does. Man. He really does.
No practice
and he needs a cover on his.
You notice
mic.
when he gets off track, he drops in a big inflection. When he starts stumbling, and it's like Jack Black
scrambling to
it's better than going
True. Well done, Nick.
You just say it with more authority when you
right.
start going off the rails.
What's your best
the beard lube is what I...
Beard lube.
Yeah, beard lube. Yeah, beard lube.
I finally...
The beard lube is made of beard, yeah.
I finally used it today for the first time, the razor that they're shelling.
Oh, they're shelling
it out?
Yes.
It's pretty darn good.
Really?
Is it really?
Yes. And if you use the beer lube with it.
Have you had some of the beer lube this morning?
I did.
I'm sorry. I need some water.
Go to getjackblack.com.
Okay, we heard from one Jason. How about we hear from another Jason from the post game yesterday? Mr. Witten reflects on yesterday's game with both its playoff implications and the possibility it was the last of his career.
Never experienced anything like it, really you showed up today and you just felt like, it was going to work out. We had to take care of our business and felt like maybe New York could beat them. But look, we had opportunities this season and we fell short. And it's a tough day across the board because I think this team was close. But we didn't play well at critical times this season. And I can go back at different points and recognize that. But I wanted to share with those guys. When I came back, it was a huge challenge. I'm proud of the way I played, but more importantly, I'm proud that I was able to kind of be there for those young players who I think have really bright futures that are cornerstone pieces in this organization, and just show them how you do it, and it's a tough game, and you got to be mentally tough. You got to go in there and approach it every day and say, everybody's watching. They're watching what you do every single day, and for all the young kids out there that want to be here one day, just know that it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of determination, and but it's worth it. This game's been so good to me. I love this game, and it was a heck of a year.
Well, you can hear the emotion in his voice.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably the way he reacted after the game. Probably it. He was going in, and he turned around and he grabbed Sean Lee and he goes, "Hey, let's take a picture." and they posed for a picture side by side, and then he ran to the northeast corner towards the end zone and waved to the stands, so I assume that's where his family was. And then when he came back, when he got behind the Cowboys bench, he didn't go in through the club area. He went along the sideline and slapped hands with the fans that were sitting in those bunker suites before he went into the tunnel. So it was almost like he didn't want to do the last kind of hurrah that players do, but
prior to the game, he didn't want to.
And then and then afterwards, he kind of made his last walk.
And he said he would take a few days to decide, but you heard the emotion in his voice. And if I'm not mistaken, he was on the sideline for much of that fourth quarter. It was Jarwin and Schultz, and then he
came back in for victory formation.
Yep, gave the guys a hug, and that seemed kind of symbolic to me.
Well, the other part of that is on television. They show the shot he had, and this was when the defense was on the field. All right, he had shaken hands with teammates on the sideline, and then he had his helmet on. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
That the defense is on the field, and it was as if
not take it off, right?
One last time, he's putting his helmet on the field, and he was also probably anticipation he is going back on the field for victory formation here because the defense was about to hold him. But
I tell you what, he is blessed because only a very small percentage of former players get a chance to go out like that. Most of us are just axed, and you're out. We get the box, like you said, we get the sack, and then we're out of there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he deserves. To me, every player deserves to go out like that. But it's good to see somebody get that opportunity who deserves it. Because to me, players that have put in a lot of work for, I don't care if it's one team or many different teams, we're all emotional about it. Whether you see us cry or not. We go through the same thing. And there's a lot of guys that deserve the accolades that Jason has gotten on the way that they have gone out. And I'm just glad to see somebody get a chance to go out like that because it's a tough game. NFL's a tough game when you get put out.
Did you know your last game was your last game?
I did not. No, I did not. So, yeah, it's myself. You can think of some great players that were never able to go out with the dignity that was shown to Jason Witten. So it's good to see somebody get that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that have come through this Cowboy organization that deserve that same kind of love, and they did not get it. So kudos to the Cowboys for giving Jason Witten a chance to do that.
And usually somebody tells you that was your last game.
Exactly.
You don't realize
no,
it
they don't even.
when you're
No, they
going
don't
through
give you the love.
Did you finish the season?
I did not.
You did not.
I did not. No, so it happens to a lot of us, no doubt.
One more from Witten talking about his teammates, the Cowboys organization, and a particularly notable moment in his career.
Oh, the start. I think the beginning. Green as I could be, just turned 21 years old, playing for a legendary coach in Bill Parcells who had a blueprint on what the tight end position looked like, and walking into the Valley Ranch and meeting the Jones family and seeing the legendary figures that, my grandfather talked about of Tom Landry and Roger Staubach and Michael Irvin and saying that I'm going to be one of those guys one day. And nobody in hell probably thought that was going to happen. But, to be standing here, and really it's the relationships. I mean, guys like you guys and certainly those teammates that just walked out. I mean, it's a small family, and you sacrifice a lot. But this organization is surrounded with really good people. And I think the older you get, you appreciate going to work every day and being around people that are passionate, make others around them better, and are unselfish. And that's something that I appreciate. So 16 years, I don't know if that's going to be the end. I'll take a few days and figure it out. But I think this decision will happen pretty quickly here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, pretty quickly. So.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Versus a few days, then it became a few weeks.
Sounds like it happened already.
Sounds like it's already done, yeah.
Awfully reflective. And I do think he kind of stopped and smelled the roses this year a little bit more than maybe he did in the past. I mean, when he first came back in the spring, Mick, he stopped us in the training table and shot the bull with us for, 30 minutes. And I remember my sandwich just getting super cold. But he was so
great. It was great.
And he was so excited.
Come on, I got to eat.
Right. He was so excited to be back. And I
could
think
just see Rob like,
yeah, great, Wiz, great. But that I mean, obviously, he made the decision to come back, but it also, TV didn't work out the way he probably planned, but at the same time, it's a hard decision to come back because this is killing him to make the decision, put the work in, and nobody wants a title more than he does.
And it has to be kind of heartbreaking for him as well because he thought, as well as we all did, that this team was going to be it. I'm going to go out with a bang with these guys. We've got it together, with the previous year, and all of a sudden we got this year. It's going to build up to something great. And I'm sure he saw this thing ending a lot differently than how it did. But, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for him because the guy had a great career. Of course, we know how it is. You got to go. But, man, you just got to look back on all the good things that he did, man, and realize that they'll never forget him. He'll never be forgotten around here. So
he mentioned that Bill had a kind of an idea of what a tight end was.
Parcells.
And I'll never forget this. It was one of his first off-season practices.
Not you, Bill.
Yeah, right. It was one of his first. I don't know if it was an OTA or a mini camp practice, and Witten kind of went over the middle and caught a pass. And Parcells barks out, "Yeah, that's my pass-catching tight end," because he saw Mark Bavaro in him, and Mark Bavaro, right? And he wanted to make him a complete tight end, not just some guy that's going to line up in the slot and catch passes.
Well, let's just be real, guys. Tight ends weren't. Right. Tight ends are taking over the game.
Right.
Let's just be real, and it really kind of started right there. Bavaro was one of those guys, but then Witten and those guys, they were that class that came up. That was really great. Who's the guy for the Falcons? The big tight end.
Graham was.
Gonzalez? No, I mean the commentator.
The guy that has
the commentator.
All the catches in
Gonzalez.
the world.
Gonzalez. Thank you. Gonzalez was with that group as well. I mean, these guys came up, former basketball players. Antonio Gates came. All of a sudden, you got these former basketball players, and they're taking over the league.
And one thing Witt said, he talked about how he's proud of the way he played. One thing he mentioned was he's proud of the way he blocked this year. He said this is one of the best blocking seasons he's probably had in the last few years, and a little bit of a different role. He still had major snaps and started 16 games, but he did some of the more little things that maybe you don't notice as much in the run game.
I think it was a big improvement from the year he left.
Yes.
Because when he left, he was making some mistakes, just unusual mistakes, uncharacteristic for Jason Witten.
False starts and holding.
Yeah, all that. And then when he came back, I think he was a little bit more aware of it.
The other picture I wish I had in the locker room was Sean Lee. When we were all getting ready to leave, he was still still had his game pants on. He had kind of a T-shirt. His knee is bleeding. The calves of his legs were, I don't know, they were just discolored. I don't know if it was from dirt,
contusions,
whatever.
No, probably contusions and bruises.
And then he had blood all over his pants, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm going, that's Sean Lee right there. That is the epitome. And then he didn't want to do the interview. He said, "No, I'll do it Monday." He goes, "I got a shower. I don't want a picture of myself like this." And I'm thinking, I want that. that is Sean Lee to the T right there.
Yep.
So
looked like Rocky after a 15-round fight.
Yeah, no, seriously. So there was a lot of emotion.
The other thing, were you in the stadium still when Jason Garrett and his family and friends were out on the field?
It made
around 10 o'clock last night.
A big impression on me. Well, it was probably, I don't know if it was 10. It was late. Yeah.
According to the media that were there, it was
around
approaching
9 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
But he was out there for a while, and he does it after every game.
He's done it win or lose after a lot.
So they meet in wherever the family reception room is.
Yeah, it's not like he goes home right after the game.
And he always goes out there with family, probably nieces, nephews, whatever, and he's the quarterback and he throws the ball around. And he was pretty funny this morning when he talked about it, because a lot of times they just go out there and they run 40-yard dashes or whatever. Because he said, believe it or not, we have a hard time finding a football that late after a game. But he says we had a football, so he was the quarterback for both teams. And you know what? And when and I know the deal, it's probably a long cut that we don't have time for, but he talked about afterwards being a stand-up guy, and he was. He didn't change. He
standing tall.
Never has. He never has.
Right? He went out and did that when he left the locker room for the last time, and we were about done doing our TV stuff. He came out. He tapped me on the shoulder, shook hands. He tapped Babe and Brad on the shoulder, shook hands with them, and just kind of walked off. But he did what he always does. He didn't change. He stayed on that podium for 10 minutes answering all the questions, and then did the. If it was me, I don't know if I would have done that morning radio show.
Well, and on that morning radio show, he said what he always says. The cut earlier about it was a good day yesterday, and that's Jason Garrett because. It wasn't
Find
a good day.
I
mean, yeah,
Find that silver lining, yeah.
I mean, if you look at the big picture, and that's our job, is that it wasn't a good day in terms of missing the playoffs and finishing 8-8. It's a disappointing end to a season, but he's proud of his guys standing tall and finishing the season strong. That's a coach's mentality, and that's always been his message. Have a great day, and in his mind, the way they finished out, at least they finished that way.
So for all the people out there that got into this deal about his message got stale, he can't motivate the team, just take your BS home, all right? Because that team didn't have to play the way they did yesterday, and they didn't start off very well either. By the way,
listen to how emotional Dak got talking about him after the game. Too.
Oh, for real?
Guys,
his eyes were welling.
Guys,
wow.
Yeah,
respect his message. The job didn't get done, but there's respect for the way he's stayed true to himself throughout all these years.
To me, it's old school. You can tell he was raised old school.
Yeah.
We can talk about motivational
Jim?
people. Yeah, his dad was jogging until like the day he died.
That's right.
He jogged like all around the track, and but you could tell that's how he was raised. He was raised by a man that basically no nonsense. We have coaches out there that are fire and brimstone. I was taught by a bunch of them, but there are also like people like my father. All he wants is, I ask you to do something, you do it. I don't need to motivate you to do anything. This is what you do. And so I think that's what Jason's philosophy was. Guys, you know why we're here. I don't need to tell you why. I've been here myself as a player. Now I'm your coach. I can tell you what's going on. I have imparted all this wisdom to you. Now, let's go out and win some ball games. But I think these players, they need more than that. As an old school guy myself, I would not have needed more than that. All I needed was my teammates to be there with me. That's all I needed. Coaches were instructors to me. And I thought that this team was going to handle that in the same way. But I think they need somebody to threaten them. I think they need a Jimmy Johnson out there because obviously, they just didn't seem motivated at the beginning of the tough games that they had. And let's be real, guys. If this game was in D.C., we might have lost that game.
That was a slow start.
It was a slow, ugly start.
Penalties.
Although in
we
D.C.,
looked awkward.
They're not drawing very many fans in D.C., even if the Cowboys are coming to town right now.
Let's just say this. The Cowboys came out for that game the same way they came out for Philadelphia game in Philadelphia.
You're right about that.
That's what happened.
And in the road games, they didn't handle the in-game
Well, the road games are different because the
yeah.
opponents are going to be more fired up.
Right.
They're going to be more motivated. Now they're here in Dallas, the last game. We're not even at home. If they would have played in D.C., may not still been a loss for the Redskins, but they would have played better.
And they didn't want to win either, by the way. They wanted that second pick in the draft.
Well, yeah, let's say that too.
And they have 25 guys on injured reserve too.
And it's always hard to play those types of teams because it's going to be 4 downs, right? I don't even know why they kicked those field goals. I'd have kept going for it.
It was like
I didn't understand why.
Because he started off not going for it.
He went for it on 4th down
Twice.
the first time, and then he kicked the field goal the second time. I said, well, what's the difference? It was 4th and 4 or 4th and 7. I mean, why are you kicking it now?
Yeah.
That's why they're the Redskins.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. All right. So what happens the rest of this day?
So
we got 2 minutes left, and we got the break getting ready to come in here.
He mentioned that he's meeting with the Joneses after the team meeting, so we'll see what takes place there. And I would imagine, I don't know, I just have this feeling we're going to hear something by the end of the day.
I do too. Yeah.
Very well could be. Yeah.
Almost in fairness to him, because if you're letting him go, there's opportunities out there, right? And no sense letting those opportunities pass by while you're hanging on to him.
That's how I ended up with the Giants. Jimmy let me go as soon as the season was over. as opposed to being vindictive and holding on to me all off season when everyone's already filled up their rosters.
Yeah, and
they let me go right away.
And
boom,
you gave him every opportunity to be vindictive since you were fraternizing with the opponent.
The enemy, not the opponent. It's the enemy.
If you think about it, this was the same situation Troy was in after that 2020 season when he wanted to get released. So he thought Norv would bring him in as the backup quarterback in San Diego, and Jerry wanted to wait to June 1 because he wanted to spread out his cap, his proration of the cap.
I remember that.
And Troy got mad at him.
Yep.
And they got mad at each other, and then he finally let him go. But by the time they released him, San Diego had signed Doug Flutie as their kind of veteran backup, and there really wasn't an opportunity. But Troy, in his mind, was, I'm still playing, right?
Wow.
And then he finally decided he decided, okay, it's time to retire.
I mean, DeMarcus Ware, kind of the same situation? Or I guess he was going to be a free agent. I can't remember.
No, he was under contract.
He was under contract, but it was right at the opening day of free agency. They decided to.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was because Troy had a roster bonus there too.
Right.
He was going to cost them $7 million if they kept him, but they were willing to do that to spread out the proration of his signing bonus. But yeah, they were going to release him and say okay, but not till June 1.
Okay, the break is up next. Keep it right here in DallasCowboys.com. Yes, and we will be back here tomorrow for another edition of Talkin Cowboys, and there will be lots to talk about tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?